The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire. On every space station, every colony world, every trading post, beings were talking about the same thing. The humans had done it again. They had wiped out the entire Zephyrian cartel without even trying to talk first. Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood in her quarters aboard the diplomatic station orbiting Centauri Prime. She watched the news feeds from dozens of different species, each one showing the same images. Burned Zephyrian ships floating in space, empty criminal bases that once housed thousands, the complete destruction of one of the galaxy's most powerful crime organizations. The reactions were mixed. Some species cheered. The Melodians had suffered under Zephyrian pirates for decades. The peaceful Altarians had lost countless trade ships to their raids. But others were afraid, very afraid. Elena's communication system beeped. She answered to find herself looking at High Counselor Thex of the Galactic Council. His blue skin was darker than usual, a sign of stress in his species. Ambassador Vasquez, Thex said, his voice tight. The Council demands an explanation. Your species destroyed an entire organization without any attempt at negotiation. This goes against every principle of galactic law. Elena sat down calmly. She had expected this call. High Counselor, the Zephyrian cartel murdered innocent beings for profit. They killed children. They sold people into slavery. We don't negotiate with murderers, but there are proper channels, Thex insisted. Diplomatic solutions, trade agreements, prisoner exchanges. These methods have kept peace in the galaxy for thousands of years. Peace? Elena raised an eyebrow. Tell that to the families of the beings the cartel killed last week. Tell that to the slaves they were selling yesterday. Your diplomatic solutions only work if everyone agrees to follow the rules. Murderers don't follow rules. Thex's skin grew even darker. Your species is dangerous, Ambassador. This complete refusal to negotiate, it frightens other civilizations. Good, Elena said simply. It should frighten the criminals. As for everyone else, they have nothing to fear from us unless they choose to harm innocents. The call ended abruptly. Elena turned back to the news feeds. She knew this was just the beginning. 3 systems away in the dark space between stars, 3 ships met in secret. They belonged to the most powerful criminal organizations in the galaxy. The Corvin Blood Fleet, known for their brutal raids on colony worlds. The Synthetic Liberation Front, who kidnapped organic beings and turned them into cyborg slaves. The Nexus slavers, who had been trading in sentient life for over 200 years. Commander Vrak of the Blood Fleet spoke first. His red eyes glowed in the darkness of his ship's bridge. The humans have made themselves our enemy. They destroyed the Zephyrians completely. No survivors. No negotiations. No mercy. Captain Steelmind of the Liberation Front processed the information through his cybernetic brain. Analysis confirms threat level maximum. Human behavior pattern does not match galactic standard. They eliminate rather than negotiate. The third voice belonged to Overseer Quintex of the Nexus slavers. Her tentacles writhed as she spoke. In 3,000 years of operation, no species has ever acted this way. They always negotiate. They always make deals, but not the humans. What do we know about their capabilities? Vrak asked. Steelmind's cybernetic eye flickered. Fleet strength, significant but not overwhelming. Technology level, advanced but not superior to combined forces. Weakness, small population, limited territory. Then we can defeat them, Quintex said, her tentacles settling. But only if we work together, something that has never been done before. The 3 commanders looked at each other through their communication screens. They had been enemies for decades, competing for territory and resources. But the humans had changed everything. Agreed, Vrak said finally. Alliance formed. Target human colonies and shipping. Goal, force negotiation or destroy them completely. Confirmed, Steelmind responded. Agreed, Quintex added. The humans will learn that some forces in this galaxy are too strong to simply eliminate. Back on the diplomatic station, Elena was meeting with representatives from over 20 different species. The main conference room was filled with beings of all shapes and sizes. Some breathed the same air as humans. Others needed special suits or breathing apparatus. All of them wanted to understand what humanity was really planning. Ambassador, said Representative Cole of the Thraxian Republic, your species' actions have created concern among the peaceful civilizations. We need to know your intentions. Elena looked around the room. She saw fear in many eyes, but also hope in others. Our intentions are simple. We want to live in peace with all civilizations that respect life and freedom. We want to trade, learn, and grow together. And those who don't respect life and freedom, asked Minister Dal of the Centauri Union. We eliminate them, Elena said without hesitation. Completely. A shocked silence filled the room. Finally, Elder Wayne of the Ancient Covenant spoke. But surely there must be some room for negotiation. Perhaps rehabilitation programs. Maybe economic sanctions? Elena shook her head. Tell me, Elder Wayne, how do you negotiate with someone who kills children for profit? What economic sanction stops a slaver from selling sentient beings? How do you rehabilitate someone who enjoys causing suffering? These are complex issues, Wayne replied. They require careful consideration, time, and wisdom. While they require consideration, Elena said, more innocents die. Every day spent in negotiations is another day of suffering for their victims. We choose to end that suffering quickly and permanently. Representative Cole shifted nervously. But what if you make mistakes? What if you target the wrong organization? We don't make those kinds of mistakes, Elena replied. We investigate thoroughly. We gather evidence. We make sure. But once we're certain that an organization profits from murder and suffering, we act without delay. The meeting continued for hours. Some representatives left early, clearly disturbed by humanity's position. Others stayed to ask more questions. A few even approached Elena privately afterward. Minister Dal was one of them. Ambassador, he said quietly. The Centauri Union has been dealing with pirate attacks for 50 years. Our diplomatic efforts have failed repeatedly. The pirates take our offers of negotiation as signs of weakness. Elena studied the tall, thin minister. Are you asking for our help? Unofficially, yes. Our government cannot publicly support your methods. But privately, we are tired of watching our people suffer while we negotiate with murderers. We'll consider it, Elena said. Send us the details of the pirate organization. If they fit our criteria, we'll take action. As the diplomatic meeting ended, Elena returned to her quarters. She had 3 messages waiting. One from Earth confirming support for her position. One from the human military, reporting increased readiness across all fleets. And one that made her smile. The message was from a freed slave on the former Zephyrian world of Karos. It was simple. Thank you for not talking to them. Thank you for saving us. Elena sat back in her chair. The galaxy was afraid of humanity's methods. The criminals were forming alliances against them. The politicians wanted negotiations and compromise. But somewhere out there, beings who had been suffering under criminal rule were finally free. She thought about the choice her species had made. They could have followed galactic tradition. They could have spent years in negotiations, prisoner exchanges, and diplomatic solutions. They could have been accepted and praised by the galactic community. Instead, they had chosen to be feared by the wicked and loved by the innocent. It was not an easy choice, but Elena knew it was the right one. The galaxy would have to learn to accept humanity's way of doing things. Because humans had learned something that the rest of the galaxy seemed to have forgotten. Some evils were too great to negotiate with. Some enemies were too dangerous to allow to exist. And sometimes the only way to protect the innocent was to completely destroy those who would harm them. The humans would not back down. They would not compromise with murderers. And the galaxy was about to learn what that really meant. The attacks began 3 weeks later. They came without warning and hit multiple human targets at the same time. Colony ships, trading stations, and civilian transports were struck across 5 different star systems. The criminals had planned well. Captain Marcus Chen was aboard the UES Retribution when the first reports came in. His ship was patrolling the outer rim of human space, one of 12 heavy cruisers keeping watch for exactly this kind of threat. The communication officer's face was pale as he delivered the news. Sir, we're receiving distress calls from New Geneva Colony, Terra Station 7, and the merchant vessel Prosperity. All report attacks by unknown forces. Marcus moved to the main screen. The tactical display showed red markers spreading across human space like a disease. How many ships? What kind of firepower? Unknown, sir. But the attack patterns suggest coordination between different criminal organizations. The signatures match Corvin synthetic and Nexus technologies. Marcus felt his jaw tighten. The 3 most dangerous criminal groups in the galaxy, working together. This was exactly what Earth Command had been worried about. Get me a channel to all human vessels in the area. Emergency frequency. The communication officer's fingers moved quickly across his console. Channel open, sir. All human vessels, this is Captain Chen of the UES Retribution. We are under coordinated attack by multiple criminal organizations. Follow Omega Protocol. Protect civilians, engage hostile forces, take no prisoners. The responses came back quickly. 12 different captains confirmed their orders. No one questioned the take no prisoners command. In the human fleet, certain things were understood without explanation. 3 hours later, the criminals made their next move. A massive holographic transmission appeared across the galaxy, broadcast on every major communication channel. It showed a being that many recognized as Overseer Quintex of the Nexus slavers. People of the galaxy, her voice was translated into hundreds of languages simultaneously. We speak for the alliance of free organizations that your so-called governments have failed to control. The humans have declared war on us without provocation. They have murdered our people without trial or negotiation. The image changed to show hundreds of human prisoners in cages, men, women, even children taken from the attacked colonies and ships. They looked terrified but unharmed. We hold over 300 human civilians, Quintex continued. Our demands are simple. The human government will withdraw all military forces from the Outer Rim. They will pay compensation for the organizations they have destroyed. They will agree to follow galactic law and negotiate future disputes through proper diplomatic channels. The transmission showed close-ups of the prisoners, a young girl clutching a torn doll, an elderly man staring at the camera with dignity despite his fear, a woman holding her baby close to her chest. You have 72 hours to respond, Quintex said. For every hour after that deadline, we will execute 10 prisoners. The galaxy will see what happens when a species refuses to follow civilized behavior. The transmission ended. Within minutes, every major news network in the galaxy was covering the story. Political commentators debated the situation. Most agreed that humanity would have to negotiate. No species had ever refused to bargain for the lives of their own people. On the diplomatic station, Ambassador Elena Vasquez watched the transmission with representatives from dozens of species. The room was silent when it ended. Finally, High Counselor Thek spoke. Ambassador, surely your government will negotiate now. These are innocent lives we're talking about. Your own people. Elena's face was calm, but her hands were clenched into fists. High Counselor, humanity's position has not changed. We do not negotiate with murderers. But they're your own people, Representative Cole exclaimed. Your own children? Yes, Elena said quietly. They are. And every moment we spend in negotiations is another moment those criminals remain alive to threaten more innocence. How many other species have children in slavery right now? Because the galaxy chooses to negotiate instead of act. The room erupted in shocked voices. Several representatives began speaking at once, their translator devices creating a chaos of overlapping languages. Elena raised her hand for silence. I know this is difficult for you to understand, she said. Your civilizations have spent thousands of years learning to compromise, to find middle ground, to negotiate solutions that everyone can live with. But some things cannot be compromised with. Elder Wayne of the Ancient Covenant leaned forward. Ambassador, are you saying your government would sacrifice those prisoners rather than negotiate? I'm saying, Elena replied, that if we negotiate with these criminals, we tell every other criminal organization in the galaxy that taking human hostages is an effective strategy. We tell them that murder and slavery are acceptable tools for forcing us to comply with their demands. But the cost, Minister Dal whispered. Those innocent lives. Elena's voice was steady, but there was pain in her eyes. The cost of negotiating is higher. How many more will die if we teach the galaxy that threatening human civilians gets results? How many more species will suffer under criminal rule while we engage in endless diplomatic processes? Meanwhile, aboard the UES Retribution, Captain Marcus was receiving new orders from Earth Command. The message was brief and direct. Execute Criminal Elimination Protocol 7. No negotiations. Locate and eliminate all hostile forces. Rescue hostages if possible. But mission priority is complete destruction of criminal alliance. Marcus read the orders twice, then called his senior staff to the briefing room. Commander Sarah Park, his tactical officer, was the first to arrive. Lieutenant James Wilson, the intelligence specialist, came next. Chief Engineer Maria Santos completed the group. Orders from Earth Command, Marcus said without preamble. We're going after all of them. The entire criminal alliance. No negotiations, no surrender accepted, complete elimination. Commander Park studied the tactical display. Sir, the hostages. The transmission showed they're holding over 300 civilians. I know, Marcus said. Intelligence estimates suggest they're being held on 3 different locations. Mobile prison ships that can jump to hyperspace if threatened. Lieutenant Wilson activated his data pad. Sir, I've been analyzing the transmission. The background details in the recording suggest locations near the Corvin home system, the synthetic manufacturing hub, and the Nexus main trading post. 3 targets. 3 different organizations, Marcus said. They're expecting us to choose which group to negotiate with first. They're expecting us to try to minimize casualties by making deals. Chief Santos looked up from her engineering reports. Sir, with respect, how do we rescue the hostages if we're not negotiating? Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then he activated the ship's communication system. All hands, this is the captain. In 20 minutes, we will receive a response to the criminal demands from Earth Command. That response will be broadcast across the galaxy. I want you all to understand what we're about to do and why we're doing it. He paused, looking at each of his senior officers. Those criminals are holding our people hostage because they believe we will choose their lives over our principles. They believe we will compromise with murderers to save innocents. They are wrong. The ship was silent except for the hum of the engines. Marcus continued, We will not abandon our people. We will rescue them if we can. But we will not teach the galaxy that threatening human civilians is an effective strategy. The cost is too high. 20 minutes later, the response came. It was not from a diplomat or a politician. It was from Admiral Torres, the highest-ranking officer in the human fleet. His image appeared on screens across the galaxy. To the criminal alliance holding our people, he said, his voice calm and clear. Humanity's response is simple. We do not negotiate with murderers. We eliminate them. He paused, letting the words sink in across the galaxy. You have 72 hours to release our people unharmed and surrender yourselves for justice. After that, we will hunt you down and destroy you completely. There will be no negotiation. There will be no compromise. There will be no mercy. The transmission ended. The galaxy watched in stunned silence. No species had ever responded to hostage demands with a counter-threat. No civilization had ever chosen war over negotiation when their own people's lives were at stake. On the Nexus slaver ship holding the human prisoners, Overseer Quintex stared at the blank screen where Admiral Torres's image had been. Her tentacles writhed in agitation. They're bluffing, she said to her subordinates. No species would sacrifice their own people. They'll negotiate. They have to. But deep down, as she looked at the calm faces of the human prisoners, she began to doubt. These humans didn't look like people who expected rescue through diplomacy. They looked like people who expected their government to avenge them. The galaxy held its breath. In less than 72 hours, they would discover whether humanity really meant what they said. Whether a species could be so committed to their principles that they would choose war over compromise, even when their own children's lives hung in the balance. The criminals were about to learn that humans meant exactly what they said. And they were about to discover that some species considered the complete elimination of evil more important than any individual life, even their own. The hunt began exactly 72 hours after Admiral Torres's transmission. It started simultaneously across 12 different star systems, coordinated to the second by Human Fleet Command. No warnings were given, no final chances offered. The human response was swift, systematic, and absolute. Captain Marcus Chen led the assault on the Corvin Blood Fleet's main stronghold in the Terminus Nebula. His task force consisted of 6 heavy cruisers and 2 destroyer squadrons. They dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system and immediately began scanning for targets. Contacts, reported Commander Park from the tactical station. 47 Corvin vessels, various classes. They're moving to defensive positions around the asteroid base. Marcus studied the tactical display. The Corvin had chosen their location well. The asteroid field would make targeting difficult, and they had plenty of cover for hit-and-run attacks. It was a strong defensive position that would normally require weeks of careful planning to assault. Time estimate for standard siege tactics? Marcus asked. 3 to 4 weeks minimum, Park replied. The asteroid field gives them too many advantages. We don't have 3 weeks, Marcus said. Our people are being held somewhere in this system. Commander Santos, what's the status on our new mining charges? Chief Engineer Santos checked her readings. All ships report mining charges armed and ready, sir. Enough firepower to crack a small moon. Marcus nodded. The mining charges were supposed to be used for asteroid mining and planetary construction. Today they would serve a different purpose. All ships prepare to fire mining charges into the asteroid field. Pattern Delta 7. There was a moment of silence on the bridge. Pattern Delta 7 meant saturating the entire asteroid field with explosives. It would destroy the Corvin base, but it would also eliminate any chance of taking prisoners or recovering stolen goods. Sir, Lieutenant Wilson said carefully, Pattern Delta 7 will destroy everything in the field. If they're holding hostages there, they knew the consequences when they took our people, Marcus replied. Fire when ready. The mining charges launched in perfect coordination. Massive explosives designed to crack asteroids for easy mining instead detonated throughout the Corvin stronghold. The asteroid field lit up like a miniature sun as dozens of explosions tore through rock and metal alike. When the light faded, the asteroid field was gone. In its place was expanding debris and the wreckage of what had once been the most powerful pirate fleet in the galaxy. There were no survivors. 3 systems away, Commander Lisa Park was leading a different kind of operation. Her Special Forces team had tracked down a synthetic Liberation Front facility on the industrial world of Mechanus Prime. Unlike the Corvin base, this target was in a populated area, making direct assault impossible. Facility is underground, reported Sergeant Miller through his suit's communication system, 50 meters below the main city. Intel suggests they're converting captured organics into cyborg slaves. Lisa checked her team's position on the tactical map. 20 human Special Forces operators against an unknown number of synthetic forces in their own territory. Under normal circumstances, it would be considered a suicide mission. Rules of engagement? Asked Corporal Davis. Same as always, Lisa replied. Eliminate all hostile forces. Rescue prisoners if possible. Leave no infrastructure intact. The team moved through the city's maintenance tunnels like ghosts. The Synthetic Liberation Front had chosen their location, believing that no government would risk civilian casualties in an assault. They had not counted on humanity's willingness to accept those risks when the alternative was allowing evil to continue. The assault began at exactly 0300 local time. Lisa's team struck at 6 different access points simultaneously, using shaped charges to breach the underground facility's defenses. The synthetic forces were caught completely off guard. Contact front, reported Sergeant Miller as cybernetic guards responded to the intrusion. Engaging. The battle was brief but intense. Human soldiers moved through the facility with devastating efficiency, their training and equipment giving them every advantage. The synthetic forces had expected negotiation, preparation time, and advance warning. They got none of those things. Prisoner area secured, reported Corporal Davis. Approximately 200 beings of various species, including 30 humans, all alive, condition unknown. Lisa moved through the facility's control center, downloading everything from their computer systems while her team placed demolition charges. Intelligence package secured. Facility will be destroyed in 10 minutes. As they evacuated with the rescued prisoners, one of the freed humans grabbed Lisa's arm. The others, the woman said urgently. They split us up. The humans are on a ship somewhere else. We'll find them, Lisa promised, and we'll find everyone responsible for putting you here. The underground facility exploded exactly 10 minutes later, sending shockwaves through the city above. The Synthetic Liberation Front's main processing center was gone, along with all their equipment, data, and leadership. Meanwhile, in the Nexus slavers' main trading post, Overseer Quintex was watching reports of the human attacks with growing alarm. The Corvin Blood Fleet was gone. The Synthetic Liberation Front had lost their primary facility. The humans were not negotiating. They were not trying to minimize casualties. They were simply destroying everything. Status report, she demanded from her subordinates. Both Corvin and synthetic leadership confirmed eliminated, reported her intelligence chief. Human forces are moving on all known criminal organization assets simultaneously. No prisoners being taken. Quintex's tentacles writhed in agitation. What about our hostages? Surely they'll negotiate for their own people. No communication attempts detected. They appear to be treating the hostages as acceptable losses. The concept was alien to Quintex. Every species in the galaxy valued individual life over abstract principles. Every government would negotiate to save their own people. It was the foundation of how criminal organizations operated. Increase security around the prison ship, she ordered. Prepare to jump to the backup location. Ma'am, her tactical officer interrupted. We're detecting human ships dropping out of hyperspace at the system edge. Quintex moved to the main display. 3 human heavy cruisers were advancing toward their position, moving at attack speed with weapons powered up. Open a channel, she ordered. They'll want to negotiate for their people. The communication request was sent. For several minutes, there was no response. Then, unexpectedly, the humans accepted the call. The face that appeared on screen was Admiral Torres himself. Overseer Quintex, he said calmly. Release our people immediately and surrender yourself for trial. Admiral, Quintex replied, forcing confidence into her voice. Surely we can reach an agreement. I hold over 100 of your people, including children. You cannot simply attack us. Torres's expression didn't change. You have 5 minutes to release them and surrender. After that, you will be destroyed. You're bluffing, Quintex said. No species would sacrifice their own people for abstract principles. Name your terms. Territory, technology, credits, everything is negotiable. Torres was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was perfectly calm. You don't understand, Overseer. We're not here to negotiate. We're here to eliminate you. Whether our people survive is up to you. The communication ended. Quintex stared at the blank screen in shock. In 3,000 years of criminal operations, she had never encountered anything like this. No species had ever refused to negotiate for their own people. Ma'am, her tactical officer said urgently, the humans are launching fighters. Attack formation. Quintex made a decision that went against every instinct she had developed in her long criminal career. Release the human prisoners, she ordered. Put them in escape pods and launch them toward the human ships. Ma'am, do it now. Maybe if we give them back their people, they'll be willing to negotiate. The escape pods launched just as the human fighters reached weapons range. For a moment, Quintex thought her gamble had worked. The human ships altered course to recover the pods instead of pressing their attack. Then Admiral Torres appeared on screen again. Thank you for releasing our people, Overseer. That was the right choice. So we can negotiate now? Quintex asked hopefully. No, Torres replied. Now you die with a slightly cleaner conscience. The attack resumed immediately. Human fighters tore through the Nexus defenses like they weren't there. The criminal organization ships were destroyed one by one, systematically and efficiently. Quintex's final transmission was a desperate plea for mercy that went unanswered. When the battle ended, the Nexus slavers' main trading post was a field of debris. Their prison ships were destroyed, their leadership eliminated, their infrastructure obliterated. Like the Corvan Blood Fleet and the Synthetic Liberation Front, they simply ceased to exist. Across the galaxy, reports came in of similar attacks. Human forces had struck at every known criminal organization asset simultaneously. Pirate bases, slave markets, smuggling operations, and illegal weapons dealers were all hit at the same time. It was the largest coordinated military operation in galactic history. The message was clear. Humanity had declared war not just on the alliance that had taken their people, but on organized crime itself. The aftermath of humanity's massive criminal elimination operation sent shockwaves through galactic civilization that reached far beyond the destroyed criminal organizations. Within weeks, the ripple effects were being felt on every inhabited world in known space. On the peaceful world of Melodia Prime, Minister Kelvin stood before the Planetary Council with a proposal that would have been unthinkable just months earlier. The Melodians were known throughout the galaxy for their gentle nature and absolute commitment to non-violence. They had never maintained a military force, preferring to rely on diplomacy and galactic law for protection. Esteemed counselors, Minister Kelvin began, his melodious voice carrying easily through the crystal chambers. For 47 years, our trade routes have been plagued by pirate attacks. We have filed over 3,000 formal complaints with the Galactic Council. We have participated in countless diplomatic negotiations. We have paid protection fees, tribute, and ransom demands totaling billions of credits. The Council listened in their traditional respectful silence. Minister Kelvin continued. Last week, a single human task force eliminated the pirate organization that has terrorized our shipping for nearly 5 decades. They did this in 18 hours. No negotiations, no payments, no compromise, just results. Elder Harmony, the oldest member of the council, raised her hand. Minister Kelvin, surely you are not suggesting that we abandon our commitment to peaceful resolution? I am suggesting, Kelvin replied carefully, that we formally request human assistance in securing our trade routes. Not for violence, but for protection. The humans have proven that some problems cannot be solved through gentle means. The council chamber filled with the soft harmonies that indicated deep discussion among the Melodians. After several hours of debate, they reached a decision that surprised many galactic observers. The Melodian Collective, one of the galaxy's most pacifist civilizations, formally requested human military protection for their merchant vessels. The request was approved within hours. Meanwhile, in the warrior halls of the Thrakari Empire, General Koroth was having a very different conversation with his military advisors. The Thrakari were one of the galaxy's premier warrior cultures, proud of their military traditions and combat prowess. They had always viewed humans as competent but unremarkable fighters. Report on human military capabilities, Koroth commanded. Colonel Vex stepped forward, his battle scars visible even through his ceremonial armor. General, we must revise our previous assessments. The human operations were not just successful, they were unprecedented. Explain. Sir, they eliminated over 400 criminal strongholds simultaneously across multiple star systems. Perfect coordination, overwhelming force, 0 prisoners taken. But that's not what concerns me. Koroth's eyes narrowed. Continue. It's their methodology, sir. They don't fight wars. They fight extinctions. When they decide an enemy needs to be eliminated, they don't defeat them. They erase them completely. Another colonel spoke up. Sir, I served as a military observer during the Centauri Rebellion. I've seen species fight defensive wars, territorial wars, even wars of conquest. But the humans fight elimination wars. They don't stop until the enemy ceases to exist as a concept. General Koroth was quiet for a long time. Finally, he spoke. Are you telling me that a species we considered minor players in galactic politics has developed the most effective military doctrine in known space? Sir, Colonel Vex replied, I'm telling you that if the humans ever decided the Thrakari Empire was a threat to innocent life, we would not survive the experience. The room fell silent. For a warrior culture that prided itself on its military superiority, this was a sobering realization. On the Altarian homeworld, President Zhen was meeting with her cabinet to discuss a problem that was spreading across the galaxy. The Altarians had always prided themselves on their diplomatic skills and their ability to find peaceful solutions to any conflict. Madam President, said Foreign Minister Cole, we're receiving requests for military assistance from over 30 different systems. They all want human-style solutions to their criminal problems. And our response? We've been offering traditional diplomatic mediation services, negotiated settlements, prisoner exchanges, economic incentives for behavioral change. The standard approaches that have worked for centuries. President Zhen reviewed the reports on her datapad. Success rate? Minister Call looked uncomfortable. 0%, Madam President. Every government that has tried diplomatic solutions since the human operations has been told by criminal organizations that they need to speak to the humans if they want real results. Meaning? The criminals are no longer taking our diplomatic efforts seriously. They've learned that humans can eliminate them completely, so they view traditional negotiation as meaningless. They either want to negotiate directly with humans, or they want guarantees that humans won't be involved. President Zhen set down her datapad. So humanity's refusal to negotiate has made negotiation impossible for everyone else. Essentially, yes. The criminal organizations now know that complete elimination is possible. Diplomatic solutions only work if all parties believe that's the worst-case scenario. The humans have changed the rules. 3 star systems away, Commander Vrak of what had once been the Corvan Blood Fleet was learning this lesson firsthand. He was one of only 12 Corvan pirates who had survived the human assault on their main base. He had escaped only because he had been commanding a small raid on a merchant convoy when the humans struck. Now he sat in a hidden asteroid base with the remnants of his fleet, trying to figure out what to do next. His communication officer brought him news that made his situation even worse. Commander, we're receiving surrender offers from 3 different planetary governments. They're offering full amnesty and resettlement packages if we agree to stop raiding their shipping. Vrak looked at the messages with bitter amusement. Standard diplomatic packages? Yes, sir. Full pardons, monetary compensation, even territory if we agree to legitimate business operations. And if we refuse? They threatened to contact the humans. Vrak laughed, but there was no humor in it. Do they understand that the humans don't take surrender? That they don't offer amnesty? That they don't distinguish between small-time raiders and major criminal organizations? Apparently not, sir. Should I respond to the offers? Brack thought about his options. He could accept one of the surrender deals and try to live a legitimate life. He could continue raiding and hope the humans never found him. Or he could try to rebuild the Blood Fleet and challenge human supremacy. Send responses to all three governments, he decided. Tell them we accept their surrender offers. Sir, you heard me. We're done being criminals. The humans have made that career too dangerous to continue. Similar conversations were happening throughout the galaxy. Criminal organizations that had operated for centuries were disbanding, rather than risk human attention. Some tried to go legitimate. Others simply disappeared into the depths of space. A few attempted to continue operations but found that their traditional targets were now under human protection. Dr. Sarah Kim was documenting these changes from her position on the diplomatic station. Her research was revealing patterns that surprised even her. Crime rates have dropped by 68% in systems with human military presence, she noted in her latest report. But more interestingly, crime rates have dropped by 42% in systems where no humans are present but where local governments have announced they will request human assistance if needed. She paused in her writing to review the data again. The numbers were remarkable. The mere threat of human intervention appears to be as effective as actual human intervention. Criminal organizations are avoiding activities that might attract human attention, even when no humans are present in the area. Dr. Kim's research was interrupted by an urgent communication from the Centauri government. Minister Dahl appeared on her screen, looking more serious than she had ever seen him. Dr. Kim, we need human assistance. The Black Star Syndicate has taken over 3 of our outer colonies. They're demanding tribute payments and threatening to sell our people into slavery if we don't comply. Have you tried diplomatic solutions? Dr. Kim asked, though she already knew the answer. We sent negotiators. The syndicate's response was to execute them and send us the recording. They said they don't negotiate with human puppets, and that if we want our people back, we need to send real decision-makers. Dr. Kim made a note in her files. I'll forward your request to Earth Command. You should have a response within 6 hours. The response came in 4 hours. A human task force would arrive at the Centauri colonies within 48 hours. No negotiation attempts would be made. The Black Star Syndicate would be eliminated completely. When Minister Dahl received the message, he felt a mixture of relief and unease. Relief that his people would be saved. Unease at the methods that would be used to save them. But as he looked at the reports of human effectiveness throughout the galaxy, he realized that his unease was less important than the results. For the first time in galactic history, criminal organizations were afraid. Not just cautious, but genuinely terrified of the consequences of their actions. 6 months after the great criminal elimination operations, Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood before the Galactic Council for what many expected to be humanity's final diplomatic appearance. The galaxy had changed dramatically, and not everyone was happy about those changes. The council chamber was more crowded than Elena had ever seen it. Representatives from over 200 species filled the seats, and their emotions were clearly visible despite the various forms of alien physiology. Some faces showed gratitude, others displayed fear. A few showed open hostility. High Counselor Thex called the session to order with his traditional ceremonial chime. His blue skin had returned to its normal color, but Elena could see the stress lines around his eyes. Ambassador Vasquez, Thex began formally, this council has called this emergency session to address the consequences of your species' recent actions. The galaxy has been fundamentally altered by human methods, and we must discuss whether these changes serve the cause of galactic peace. Elena stood calmly at the speaker's podium. She had expected this confrontation for months. High Counselor, members of the Council, I am ready to address your concerns. Representative Cole of the Thraxian Republic was the first to speak. Ambassador, while we acknowledge the effectiveness of human methods, we must question their sustainability. Your species has eliminated criminal organizations that had existed for centuries. But what happens when you decide that a legitimate government poses a threat to innocent life? Elena met his gaze directly. Representative Cole, humans have no interest in legitimate governments. We have no desire to control other species or impose our will on peaceful civilizations. Our only goal is the protection of innocent life from those who would destroy it for profit. But who decides what constitutes a threat? Asked Minister Vale of the Synthetic Confederation. Your species makes these determinations unilaterally without consultation or oversight. The same way any species decides, Elena replied. We investigate thoroughly, gather evidence, and act on clear proof of criminal behavior. The difference is that we act decisively instead of engaging in endless debates while innocents suffer. Elder Wayne of the Ancient Covenant raised his hand for recognition. Ambassador, my species has received requests from over 40 different governments asking us to intercede with humanity on their behalf. They fear that any action they take might be misinterpreted as criminal behavior. Elena nodded. Elder Wayne, I understand their concern. But let me ask you this. In the past 6 months, how many of those governments have engaged in activities that harm innocent beings? Well, none that I'm aware of. Then they have nothing to fear from humanity. We target criminal organizations, not legitimate governments. We target those who profit from murder, slavery, and suffering, not those who protect their people and respect life. The debate continued for hours. Species after species raised concerns about human methods, human authority, and human intentions. But as the session progressed, a pattern emerged that even Elena found surprising. Minister Dal of the Centauri Union spoke near the end of the session. Honored counselors, with respect, I believe we are focusing on the wrong questions. Instead of debating whether human methods are appropriate, perhaps we should examine their results. He activated a holographic display showing galactic crime statistics. In the 6 months since human operations began, violent crime has decreased by 73% across all monitored systems. Piracy has virtually disappeared from major trade routes. Slavery operations have been reduced by 89%. The numbers hung in the air. Impossible to ignore, Minister Dahl continued. More importantly, we have rescued over 100,000 beings from slavery, protected countless innocent lives, and seen the emergence of safe travel corridors for the first time in galactic history. Representative Cole shifted uncomfortably. But at what cost? The complete destruction of organizations that could have been reformed, rehabilitated, or redirected toward legitimate activities. With respect, Minister Dahl replied, my government spent 40 years attempting to reform the Corvin blood fleet through diplomatic means. The result was 40 years of continued suffering for their victims. The humans eliminated them in 18 hours. Elder Wayne raised another concern. But the precedent, Minister Dahl. What happens when another species decides to adopt human methods? What if a militaristic civilization decides that their neighbors constitute a threat to innocent life? Elena stepped forward. Elder Wayne, that concern assumes that human methods can be easily copied. They cannot. Our approach requires not just military capability, but absolute commitment to the protection of innocent life above all other considerations, including our own lives. She paused, looking around the chamber. How many species in this room would sacrifice their own people rather than negotiate with murderers? How many would choose war over compromise when their own children's lives are at stake? The chamber was silent. Elena continued. Human methods work because they are based on principles that cannot be faked or imitated for political gain. You cannot pretend to value innocent life above your own survival. You either do or you don't. The session was interrupted by an urgent communication from the Outer Rim. High Counselor Thex received the message with visible concern. Counselors, he announced, we have received a distress call from the Zeta Reticuli system. A new criminal organization calling itself the Galactic Liberation Army has taken control of 3 planets and is demanding recognition as a legitimate government. The chamber buzzed with nervous conversation. Elena stepped back to the podium. High Counselor, what are their demands? Thex consulted his datapad. They claim to represent freedom from human tyranny and demand that all human military forces withdraw from the galaxy. They say they will execute 1,000 prisoners per day until humanity agrees to negotiate. Elena's expression didn't change, but her voice carried a cold edge. And their criminal activities? They appear to be operating slave markets, weapons trafficking, and forced labor operations on all 3 worlds. The local populations are being held as prisoners. Elena looked around the chamber at the faces of the galactic representatives. Many seemed to be waiting for her response, curious to see how humanity would handle this new challenge. High Counselor, Elena said clearly, Humanity's response remains the same. We do not negotiate with murderers. We eliminate them. But Ambassador, Representative Cole protested, they call themselves a government. They claim political legitimacy. Elena's voice was steady and final. Representative Cole, they can call themselves whatever they want. They are criminals operating slave markets and murdering innocent beings. Their self-proclaimed political status is irrelevant. High Counselor Thex leaned forward. Ambassador, this Galactic Liberation Army has specifically challenged humanity. They are using your own methods against you, claiming that human influence in the galaxy constitutes a threat to freedom. Elena smiled, but there was no warmth in it. High Counselor, they are welcome to try. They will discover the same thing every other criminal organization has learned. We don't care what they call themselves. We don't care what justifications they offer. We don't care what political theories they hide behind. If they harm innocents, we eliminate them. The council session ended with no formal resolution, but the message was clear. Humanity's position had not changed and would not change. Criminal organizations could rename themselves, claim political legitimacy, or wrap themselves in any ideology they chose. The result would be the same. 3 days later, news reports confirmed what many had expected. The Galactic Liberation Army had been eliminated completely. Their bases were destroyed, their leadership killed or captured, and their prisoners freed. The operation took exactly 19 hours from start to finish. The galaxy received the news with a mixture of relief and resignation. Criminal organizations throughout known space began to understand a fundamental truth. There was no safe haven, no political justification, and no diplomatic solution that would protect them from humanity's justice. Dr. Sarah Kim published her final report on the galactic transformation 6 months later. The document became required reading in political, science, and criminal justice programs across hundreds of worlds. The human approach to criminal justice has fundamentally altered galactic civilization, she wrote. For the first time in recorded history, criminal organizations fear the consequences of their actions more than they desire the profits from those actions. This has created what can only be described as a new type of peace, not the fragile peace of negotiated truces and temporary agreements, but the solid peace that comes from the complete absence of those who would destroy it. Other species are beginning to adopt modified versions of human methodology. The principle of complete solution over temporary accommodation is spreading throughout galactic governmental structures. The age of treating crime as a manageable problem rather than a solvable one appears to be ending. The report's conclusion became one of the most quoted documents in galactic political theory. Humanity has taught the galaxy that some evils are too great to tolerate, too dangerous to accommodate, and too destructive to negotiate with.